You're listening to The Fat Guys here on the Fog Network. I am your host, Matt Rosen, and I'm joined by my co-host and fellow subject matter enthusiast, Paul Dickerson. Our goal is to be an industry source, giving real insights into the renewable energy world. We strive to bring about information on how everyday decisions impact the renewable environment that surrounds us all, with a focus on educating listeners on the history of our industry, its lessons, and the real-world impactful solutions that have come from them, along with the personal, community, and global decisions that affect the circular fats, oils, and grease economy. You're listening to The Fat Guys here on the Fog Network. I'm your host, Matt Rosen, and here's my co-host, Paul Dickerson. We've been planning this podcast. We've been planning this podcast for quite some time, and it's fun that we're getting it going. And to introduce it to everyone, we're going to answer some really simple questions on who we are, why we're doing this, and what we hope everyone can gain from it. A little bit about me, for those who don't know who I am. I'm a Biosystems Engineering major, turned accounting master's degree, who wandered into a job in the fats, oils, and grease space, and I guess you could say caught the bug of this industry, and fell in love a little bit. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. And then Paul, you like to call yourself the used grease salesman, but
yeah, I'm a serial entrepreneur and a used grease salesman and a fog enthusiast. So I own a whole bunch of companies in this space that actually manage, service, move fats, oils, and greases.
Wonderful. And so, yeah, Paul, you said, why did we start a podcast? One, I guess it's the thing to do, right? We talk a lot. We know a lot about things happening inside and outside the industry. But it seems that our industry doesn't have anyone talking about it except for politicians. And that's not actually getting the information about what is and isn't happening that affects us out there. It's a very narrow lens of what our industry is, what our industry does as it relates to fats, oils, and greases, and how it's developed and grown over the years, and completely changed from the historical uses and to the modern uses. And by completely changed, it's more about application than the actual understanding of what to use fats, oils, and greases for. Because still pretty much, and we'll get into it, the same premise, just a little bit different in how and why. So that's why I wanted to start it. We talked about it. He said, great idea. And here we are.
And for me, man, it's about education. It's there's some great stories in our industry. There's some great stories in our history. It talks about how and why industries are located where they are. So why is Procter and Gamble, for example, located where it's located, or why is Unilever located where it's located? To me, fats, oils, and grease is part of the story for why these companies are where they are and do what they do.
Completely agree. And that decision making is sometimes unknown to the public or unknown to just the general interest individual. And educating everyone on this space is huge because, hopefully people will listen and learn and want to learn more. And that's really the whole goal, to shed some light on everything we're dealing with on a daily basis. So when you think of our ideal listener, what pains them, what ambitions might they have, what concerns might they have, and what might their dreams be about fats, oils, and greases?
I think we're going to find some food enthusiasts out there because a lot of what we're going to touch is going to be from the food industry. So how do we use these products to cook with? What are we consuming? Where do they come from? Are they safe? Are they healthy? I think there's going to be some robust discussions about those. I also think you're going to have some people that love sustainability. And I think there would be a huge eye-opener on how circular our entire economy is in the fog space. And Matt, I think this is a passion of yours too. I think you love talking about the circular piece of this economy and how we can take this triglyceride and put it all the way through fuel and then use that fuel to replant an oil seed that goes right back into making edible oils for frying French fries, and how that circle just keeps going around and around. So I think sustainability, I think it's food, and I think there's just fun in the history and knowledge of how these chemicals are used on a daily basis. So Matt, you and I joke all the time that the first thing we have to decide about fats, oils, and grease, is it going to be a food, a calorie, or is it going to be a BTU? And we're going to have a lot of discussions over how those decisions get made.
Yeah, and the other thing with our ideal listener is trying to get away from buzzwords. Everyone says buzzwords, renewable fuels or global warming, and they throw a buzzword to try and bring someone in. We're not about buzzwords. We're just about talking about what's going on. And you may or may not be interested about what's actually going on. You may just be interested in the buzzword, but to kind of get away from clouding the conversation with items that don't have depth of meaning and really digging down under that surface layer. That's what I look for in an ideal listener who really wants to dig deep beyond the buzzword.
You want to remove the fog from fog?
No, fog. I wouldn't say fog's a buzzword. Fog is a description. It's a category, but the buzzword of renewable renewable fuels or global warming or carbon footprint, right? They like to stay on that high level and don't go into the depth of what are those meaning, what's supporting those items, what is the true adaptations and implementations of fats, oils, and greases in those areas. And then to learn about fats, oils, and greases, I mean, you mentioned food, energy. We discussed light, the old oleochemical, all of these that get down to the binary choice of calorie versus BTU. All of that depth is what I'm really excited for and what I'd really hope listeners listen to us about.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and learning about this $100 billion, maybe larger industry, the very intertwined industries. So fats, oils, and greases deal with multi-trillion-dollar industries: food, agriculture, transportation, logistics,
energy,
energy in the sense of renewable energy and petroleum-based carbon energy. So just learning about there's an industry sitting in the middle that all these larger industries kind of just drown out, but there's an inflection point between all of them, and there's a fats, oils, and grease world sitting there.
Don't forget the history, Matt. I mean, you and I have had fun talking about how old this industry is, and what's the joke we make, Matt? How old is this industry?
The woolly mammoths. The industry is as old as people. It started with the development of humans, right, and using fats, oils, and greases via plants they found, whether they were foragers or animals, whether they were hunter-gatherers. Fats, oils, and greases are embedded in the history of humans.
I agree.
Paul, let people know what they can really look forward to in the next few episodes.
Robust discussions about everything from animal fats to cooking oils. It's going to be a fun. It's going to be a fun ride talking about the history of fats, oils, and greases, how they're used today, and where we're going in the future.
Wonderful. And to add to that, next episode, we're really going to dive into what is fog. And it's not what you're driving through in the morning at 5:30 if you're an early riser. It's just different fog. And then really the historical vision of what's a calorie and what's a BTU and what goes into that decision. So we're really excited to build, really excited to get to the foundation of what is the circular fog economy and how is it a really sustainable path for energy, for food, and for sustaining life. So excited to get going.
Looking forward to it.
For more industry insights and education on how you can interact with the fats, oils, and grease economy, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and ring the bell to get a notification the next time an episode drops. Follow us on X at Fat Guys Podcast and find out more information on our show site, thefatguyspodcast.com. Thanks for stopping by.